Hey y'all, welcome back to Fruit Friday. I'm your host Maddie, or Yajai in Thai, and today we are talking about a very highly requested topic, which is dating abroad. So, before we get into that, this is Fruit Friday, of course, so we have to introduce our fruit, and I thought the only appropriate fruit to share today was dates. Now, I think most people consider dates to be a Middle Eastern food, but you can also get really good dates in Thailand. They're soft, they're moist, they're juicy, they're delicious. And because you all know that I love to tell a story, I want to start off today's episode by talking about the best date that I've ever had. So I'll be honest, this story doesn't seem like it's going to have a happy ending, but it really took me by surprise. So, if you've ever stayed in Thailand for an extended period of time, you may have experienced what is called a visa run. And for those of you who don't know, a visa run essentially just means your visa is expiring, so you need to leave Thailand and come back so that you can get a new visa stamp. Now, I don't recommend this as a long-term visa strategy because you're not supposed to stay long-term in Thailand on a tourist visa. But if you're in between visa types or you need to just come for a short period of time and you don't want to go through all the paperwork process of applying for a long stay visa, if say you just want to be here for 3-4 months, you can get away with one, maybe two visa runs per year. And so that's what I was doing because I had gone home for shoulder surgery. I had come back. I was only going to stay for like 3 or 4 months and then I was going to go home again for something else. But during this time, my tourist visa expired. So I had to do a visa run, which from Samui, the easiest way and the fastest way to do that is to go to the Malaysia border and come back. And there's actually services that exist to do this. So they'll pick you up in a van at 3 a.m. on the side of the road. They'll drive you to the ferry. You get on the ferry, you go an hour and a half to the mainland, and then you get in another 10-seater van and you are zooming to the Malaysia border. It's not great, especially for someone like me who gets car sick, but it's fast, it's efficient. You get to the border, you walk across, you walk back, you get a new stamp, you get back in the van, 6 hours back to the pier, hour and a half on the ferry, hour again coming home, and you're done. Fine, smooth. Anyway, I always dread these days because even though they are the easiest way to do a visa run, they're also the most miserable because you are how do I put this? Fighting with everyone else on the visa run to get a good spot in the van and just having to sit in that many people's presence. I don't know. It's not for me. I don't like to be crammed into tight spaces with people. I don't know. So anyway, I digress. Let me tell you the story. So, best date I ever had. Shocking, because this is how it started. I sign up for the visa run. They tell me my pickup time is 3 a.m. because I'm at just the perfect point of the island where I'm like the start of the south loop. They do like a north and a south loop. So they pick everyone up on the north going this way, and then they pick up everyone on the south going this way. And I was like right here at the halfway point. So unfortunately, in both of these situations, I'm usually the very first one to be picked up. And the pickup itself lasts an hour. So I had to be there an hour earlier than most people. And they tell you that you need to be picked up on the main ring road. They say like drop a location on the ring road where you want to be picked up. Tell me why. Tell me why I was the only person that got picked up on the main road. I get on this van, 3 a.m., I'm the only one there, I sit down, and then every other person that we pick up, we're going down all these little alleyways, we're turning off the main road, we're going way out of the way to pick up these people, and I'm like, either you guys don't know how to read directions, or this visa company needs to enforce the rules, because I don't need to waste an extra hour of my time. Anyway, I digress. We finally get everyone picked up. We get to the ferry. You get on the ferry, you ride an hour and a half, and then this is where the first fight happens with everyone. You are in a mad dash off the ferry to the van because, like I said, you're in a 10-seater van and you don't want to be the one crammed in the middle seat. You don't want to be the one crammed in the back. So I am booking it because, like I said, I get car sick when I'm in an enclosed space. This didn't used to happen to me, but I think since living in Thailand, it's really gotten worse because I'm so used to driving a motorbike. Anyway, I'm like speed walking off the ferry and I can see other people speed walking next to me and we're kind of side-eyeing each other like, no, I'm gonna get there first. And we get to the van and this guy like jumps in the front seat and I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I wanted the front seat. And then these other guys get in the van. There's couples, there's groups, and so I end up in one of the worst spots, which is in the middle in the second row. So at least I have, like, I can see the horizon and I can look through the driver and passenger seats, but I'm like cramped between these two guys who are obviously chain smokers because they reek of cigarettes and I hate cigarettes. I hate smoking. and I'm stuck there and I'm just trying not to be sick. So for 6 hours, I'm like in this van, like I'm feeling awful. We finally get to the border and everyone jumps out of the van. We go through, and there was this one guy specifically I remember who, when he got picked up for the visa run, he had to pay an additional 200 baht because he got picked up so far off the road. And he didn't have money on him when they opened the door. So he had to go back into his accommodation, find 200 baht, which is like $6. And he came back out and he was paying this 200 baht in small bills and coins. So he was really strapped for cash. We get to the border. We all get lined up to go through and come back. And he gets stopped by the border agent because he has overstayed his visa. And in Thailand, if you overstay your visa, there's a fine. I think it's 500 baht per day that you have to pay for every day that you stayed over the time of your visa expiring. And this guy, remember, he didn't have any money from his pickup. He's there and he's like, oh, I don't know. And the agent that we were with is like, you have to pay that. And he was like, I can't pay it. I don't have any money. Can you pay it for me? And of course the visa agent is like, no, I'm not going to do that. So this causes a big holdup and we're all like, dude, come on, you need to know better. You need to sort yourself out. So he gets pulled to the side. They're arguing. The rest of us go through. We come back. He's still there at the immigration office trying to figure something out. And someone's trying to get him on the phone. He's trying to call someone to get them to transfer money. They're sorting it out, but it seems like it's going to take a while. So I take a little walk because actually right at the Thai-Malaysia border, there's a sweet little street market where there's a bunch of local vendors selling little things, knickknacks, food, whatever. In one of these shops, they have really good macadamia nuts, which I highly recommend if you're on a visa run. You pick up some macadamia nuts because they are super cheap and they are super delicious. But there was also a woman that was selling these massive cartons of dates. Like, I'm not kidding. They were like that big for 100 baht. That's $3 roughly. Hundreds of dates packed in there. And I was like, I was skeptical, but I like dates and I use them quite often in my cooking and in my putting them in salads and things. So I was like, why not? I'm going to buy them. And because I had time to kill, because this guy was still dealing with his visa issues, I open up the container. I take a bite of one. And like I said, most people think of dates as a Middle Eastern delicacy, and I wasn't having high expectations, but this date was divine. It was moist. It was chewy. It had a hint of kind of cinnamon, vanilla. Oh my God, it was delicious. I freaked out. And then when I came back to Samui, I had to get all of my friends to try it. And I was putting it in salads and I was putting it in smoothie bowls and yogurt parfaits and just eating them when I run. You have no idea. But anyway, I think that was a very long-winded story, especially to talk about a fruit this small. But you know what? Worth it. So thanks for listening.
It's Fruit Friday. Yeah, let's take a bite. Life's sweet and sour. Take it slice by slice. Humor, heart, and wisdom served just right. Laughing, learning, loving too. Fruit Friday's here with the juice for you.
All right, now let's kick off this segment with a few of the most frequently asked questions I get about dating in Thailand. And I think the most frequently asked question, the biggest question that I get is it hard to date in Thailand? And I think that is difficult to answer because it really depends on who you are and what you're looking for. I think in general, if you compare women and men, I think it is much easier for men to date in Thailand than it is for women to date in Thailand. And that's across all nationalities, just because, especially if you are someone who is straight and looking for a partner, the number of single men is a lot lower than the number of single women. And this is across, like I said, all nationalities. This is including Thai people. There's actually been like data and studies published about the number of single women drastically outnumbering the number of single men. And then also we have transgender community and the LGBTQ community. So it's like the numbers of options when it comes to number of single women looking for a partner and number of single straight men looking for a partner, it's small. The ratios are not working in our favor, ladies. So that's that. I think on top of that, as a foreign woman, as a Western woman, There's also challenges that come with gender roles and expectations in relationships, especially if you're dating cross-culturally. And that doesn't exist as much for men, because I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the expectations of a man in Thailand is to be the provider in a relationship. And I think that's a lot easier for a foreign man, for a Western man to come in and to provide and offer. Whereas a Thai man trying to provide for a foreign woman, it like creates this kind of weird power imbalance, as you can imagine. And as we will talk about a little bit more in depth later in this episode. But those two things can be tricky, just like the sheer number of options and the power imbalances that come in relationships like this. Second most frequent question I get asked is, have you ever dated a Thai man? And I think this is a silly question. Yes, I have. I've dated multiple Thai men. People always act surprised. And again, we're going to talk more about how I feel about that later. But yes, I've dated a Thai man. Multiple. All different, very different experiences. Question number 3. This one is one I actually really want to address because I get this question a lot, and that is, are Thai men cheaters? I think there is a huge stereotype that Thai men are unfaithful, Thai men are cheaters, Thai men are going to have a side chick, and like Thai girls get really jealous because of this dynamic. And while I think it does exist to a certain extent, and it is true, I think this is it's not always the case, and I think there are so many genuine good Thai men that would not cheat on their partner, are very faithful, are very loyal. The problem is the types of Thai men, especially the types of Thai men that foreign women encounter and that foreign women fall for, are usually the ones that are more likely to cheat. Okay? And I'm saying this because in Thai culture, most men are fairly reserved. They're not going to be overtly flirty. They're not going to confidently kind of walk up to you and hit on you. They're not going to be really forward. Okay? That's not really the Thai culture. That's not really the Thai way. But there are certain types of men that are more flirty. They are more direct. They will shoot their shot more frequently. And these, not always, but tend to be people like Muay Thai trainers and guys that work at bars, guys that work at tour agencies, because they're exposed to a higher number of foreigners. They're used to kind of interacting in this more Western dynamic where there's, I don't know, they're more exposed to that kind of culture and that dating culture and that approach to partnership, that they have a little bit more confidence, they have a little bit more game. And these, unfortunately, are also the types of men that tend to be players, that tend to lead you on, get what they're looking for, and then drop you and move on to the next. And so I think the stereotype exists because these, time after time, are the types of men, especially like if you're a foreign woman trying to date Thai men, the ones that you're going to fall for. I mean, they could do a study on the Muay Thai trainer to boyfriend pipeline. It's happening all the time, every day. Guilty, been there, no regrets. But yeah, don't act surprised if the guys that are really flirty with you, that act like they're really into you, that tell you, I've never been with a foreign girl before. No, lies. They have 100 times. They'll do it 100 times more. You're not special. Just take note of that. But anyway, no, not all Thai men are cheaters. I think there are a lot of great men out there. Just be careful of the types of men that you are falling for. If you're falling for a super confident, super flirtatious tour guide, Muay Thai trainer, someone like that, just be careful. And the last question that I get asked is, once people find out that I've dated Thai men, is what is it like to date a Thai man? And again, I've dated multiple Thai men. Every experience has been different, but I think there are two things that really underlie all of my experiences. And the first one is that Thai men love to take care of you. It is their largest goal to make sure you feel cared for, make sure that you have everything you need. And I love that. I'm an independent woman. I can take care of myself, but I love being taken care of. I love knowing that someone is looking out for me and like anticipating my needs and wanting to meet them. It's just, to me, it's acts of service. It's love in the purest form, just like wanting to care for someone like you would want to care for your pet or your child or your like your parents or your aging elderly relatives, whatever it is. Like they just have this deep desire to care for you. And so they always want to make sure that you're comfortable. You have food to eat, you have a comfortable place to sleep, your house is clean, you have, the things that you need. And so this shows up in a lot of different ways. And in the multiple relationships that I've had, it has come through a little bit differently. It's looked a little bit differently for each person. But I think bottom line is I've always felt so cared for. And yeah, I think that's really cool. Just to give a quick example, my Muay Thai trainer boyfriend that I dated for 2 years, we had the most fantastic relationship I've probably ever had in my life. He did everything for me. He treated me like a princess. Every time I came home from work, there was fresh fruit cut up in the fridge so that I could have a snack. He would cook me dinner. He would clean the house. He would always do my laundry. He would give me a massage almost every night. He was my Muay Thai trainer, but he just had this strong, strong desire to take care of me and to always make sure I was comfortable, always make sure I was energized, always make sure I was well fed and I had what I needed. At anything that I wanted or I needed to ask for his help, small things, it would be like, I really want to eat this thing. And he'd be like, okay, let's go find it. And he would just take me there. I'd be like, oh, I need to go, drop off this paperwork at this office. And he's like, oh, I'll drive you there. He just wanted me to always be comfortable. He wanted to support me in whatever I was doing. And I think that just kind of underlines the shared goal of a lot of Thai men, which is just to take care and provide for their partner, for their family. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's a really neat part of the Thai dating culture. Second thing that I think is true about Thai men specifically is they are such sad boys. The sad boy in these men is so real. If you've ever listened to Thai sad boy music, you'll understand. These guys can be so dramatic and they can just be such just wrap up in their own sorrow and kind of wallow in it. And almost to the point where it's comical to an outsider, but they all do it. They all go through these waves of super dramatic, feeling really sorry for themselves, being really sad. And I'll give a couple examples of this just to paint a picture. One time there was a guy who, we were reaching the end of our relationship and I kind of was talking about our need to go our separate ways. And it was really hard for me to do that because we had such a beautiful relationship and everything was great, but I could just see that things weren't aligned for our futures. And so, we kind of broached the topic and he agreed, but then he was just so sad. And so I was like, we're still staying together. I'm going to take a shower. I come out and he is on the balcony drinking beer, listening to sad, sad, sad boy Thai songs and just singing and crying. And I'm trying to comfort him, I still love you. I'm sorry. I know it's hard. And he's just leave me alone. Let me be here in sadness and just sad boy songs, crying, drinking, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Just take your space. Second, another guy that I had dated, after we stopped seeing each other, he started seeing this other girl, but I still followed him on Instagram. So I was keeping up with all of their drama. And he did so many things that were dramatic, but my favorite one was he drove his jet ski out to the middle of the ocean and he had this diamond ring in a box and he was holding it and showing it to the camera and being like, I thought you were the one, I bought this ring because I was going to marry you, but you were unfaithful. And then he chucks the ring into the ocean and then spins the jet ski around and zooms off in the other direction, is filming himself, sad boy song on the cover. Hilarious. And this was not the only thing that he did. He did other things of the same caliber, but just to me as an outsider, I was like, this is so unnecessarily dramatic. It's funny. And the fact that it's also very public is funny to me. So sad boy. Moving on from that, let's talk a little bit more about what it's like to date abroad, no matter what country you're in. Now, much like I talked about in the last episode about the types of people that you meet while you're abroad, you have kind of the same three groups when it comes to who you can date. And I have tested them all, so let me give you a little bit of a rundown on the pros and cons of each one and what you should be looking out for. The first group of people that you have in your dating pool are the travelers. These are the people that are here for a short time, but they're here for a good time. So depending on what you're looking for, dating travelers can be a really good option, or maybe it's a really bad option. The good thing about travelers is they don't have any plans, they're down for anything, and they're usually kind of their best selves because they're on vacation, they're stress-free, they are, like I said, just looking to have a good time, they're down to spend money. They're down to do anything that you suggest because they're happy to have a local tour guide. So they're just a bunch of fun. The downside of this, no, other than the fact that they're going to leave after a very short time and you'll probably never see them again, is they are looking at you through some heavily, heavily tinted rose-colored glasses. And what I mean by this is they might be extra into you, more into you than they would be if they had met you in their home country, because you are this shiny, beautiful, amazing thing that is part of this shiny, beautiful, amazing place that they're visiting. They're just as awestruck by you as they are by this beautiful 100-year-old temple and this incredible waterfall that they went on a hike to, because they just can't believe that your reality, your everyday, your normal life is part of their paradise vacation that they saved all year to go on. And so when you're dating travelers, you need to be mindful of this pedestal. You need to be mindful that the person that you're dating is seeing you in all of your beautiful, shiny glory. And you are beautiful and shiny and glorious. But they're also seeing you and imagining themselves with you as kind of a fantasy that they may never achieve. They're like, oh, if I lived here in this beautiful, amazing place, I could have this beautiful, amazing girl or this beautiful, amazing person. And then they start to contort the idea of you into this, like I said, dream reality, fantasy reality. And that's just not always realistic, because you're each individual people. The reality of a relationship is it's not all glorious and shiny and beautiful, but that's how they're seeing it. So if you're dating travelers, be mindful of your pedestal. Second group of people you have to date are the fellow immigrants, expat communities. These groups of people are great because you have a lot to connect with them on. You have a lot in common. Both of you have left your home countries, settled in this place. You have a shared, probably, reason for doing so. So you have that to connect on, and you have this community vibe that you share. Other plus to this is they're not going to leave right away. They're also living in the place, so you can, see a little bit more of a long-term future with them or whatever you're looking for, but, it's a little bit more stable. Downside to this is expat immigrant communities can be very small, and everyone kind of knows everyone, especially if you're in a place like Koh Samui or, smaller towns, cities where there aren't a lot of foreigners there, and so everyone does know each other. You only get so many shots of dating in these types of communities before it just gets a little bit messy, should I say. And it's not like, people are adults, they can do what they want, but just be mindful. If you're looking to date in the immigrant expat community, keep your community in mind. Don't sacrifice a good friendship or a good community dynamic to have a fling that's going to drive a wedge between good friends to make community functions awkward, because like we talked about in the last episode, it can be really hard to find community. It can take a really long time, and muddling up your great community that you found by dating too many people, shitting where you eat, it's not always a good look. So just be mindful of that. Not saying it's impossible, just be mindful. And the last group of people that you could date are the local people. So local to whatever country that you're in. So in Thailand, you have the Thai people, the people who are born here, live here, are probably staying here long term. Another great option in your dating pool. And personally has been my favorite in my dating experience. The plus side to dating a local, there are so many, but the biggest thing is you have a never ending pool of opportunities in front of you. You have so many opportunities to more deeply immerse yourself in the culture. You have so many more opportunities to learn about the language, learn about the foods, learn about new places, discover new things that you might not discover as a foreigner traveling or living in a place alone. But when you have that local insight, that local knowledge, and kind of the connections to local communities, you just have so many more opportunities to explore and connect with the local culture. And I think that is such an exciting thing about dating someone who's local to a place. Downside or challenge that comes with dating in the local communities, as we talked about earlier, is there can be cultural and language barriers that are tricky to overcome. So I think my biggest piece of advice when dating a local person, local to the area, is to just keep an open heart and keep an open mind. Understand that there are always going to be challenges and learning opportunities and opportunities to grow and evolve your ideal about what a relationship should be. And your way is not right or wrong, their way is not right or wrong. There's going to be kind of a compromise, a middle ground that you can reach. But just, like I said, keep an open heart, explore what this relationship can unfold to. Don't try to fit it into a mold. Just let it evolve beautifully and naturally. And on that note, I want to talk a little bit about cross-cultural dating in general, because I think dating across cultures is such an amazing opportunity. I think it's such a cool thing to experience, and it's such a magical thing to experience, and it really has the opportunity to create really deep love and understanding and expansion, both for you as an individual and as a couple. There's also challenges that come with it, and we'll talk about those as well. But I do think it's a topic that I am really excited to share a little bit more about. So let's start off by talking about the challenges, because I want to start on the low note and then get higher later. But the biggest challenges, I think, in cross-cultural dating is dealing with different expectations about what the dynamic should be in the relationship. So to give Thailand as an example, there is definitely a power imbalance in Thai relationships, because it's generally the expectation that the men are going to be the providers, the women are kind of going to be caretakers at home, but the men need to hold that responsibility of financially being the one providing for the family and kind of being the leader, being the strong, supporting male figure in the family. And when that's the expectation for everyone and everyone's on board with that, it's okay. When you're coming from a culture where, you know, more of a matriarch society, or just a place where women and men are seen more as equal in a relationship, that can cause a little bit of tension. And that's something that I've run into, especially as a Western woman who, you know, has a good job, makes decent money, makes more money than a Thai partner. That can create a little bit of a power imbalance, because the men still have this desire to be providers. They still have their pride. And if you, as a woman, try to come in and start paying for things, paying for them, supporting them, even though you're earning more and it would make logical sense to have that dynamic, and it might be what you want, for them, like, they're dealing with their own internal battle, and that can kind of cause a little bit of tension. It can be a little demasculating, if I can say, for them. This is a personal experience that I've had with one of my Thai ex-boyfriends, who, again, beautiful relationship, amazing while we were together, but it just reached that point where it was like, I want to go this way with my career and with my lifestyle. And I knew, could not keep up with it and support it, but also he would not accept me supporting him. And, you know, it got to the point where he was really disappointed in himself. He felt like he wasn't able to provide for me. It was really like affecting his mental health. And it was like, you know, it's better if we just go our separate ways. And thank God we did. I think no hard feelings, but yes, the power dynamics and the expectations are difficult. There can also be different ideas or expectations about what the relationship should look like. I think in Western cultures, the dating culture is a little bit more slow paced. It's a little bit less, it's kind of non-committal in a way, which I hate. But, you know, a lot of Western dating is like, yeah, we're seeing each other, we're talking, I don't want to label it, we're just gonna, you know, we like each other, but it's whatever. It's very casual, it's very nonchalant. But in Thai culture, and I think other cultures around the world, feel free to share your experience, there's this sense of like commitment and urgency almost. Like, it's like you like each other, you're together all the time, you're moving in together, your lives are intertwined, and you just become this unit. And that is more how I relate to relationships. I'm more of a commitment person. I'm more like a let's do this, let's be together. So for me, that really worked in Thai relationships. But I think that doesn't work for everyone. And some people who maybe are a bit more avoidant, maybe are a bit more protective of their independence, that type of relationship doesn't work. I'm a Leo. I love when people are obsessed with me. I love when people want to spend time with me. So for me, it worked. For others, it might not. Also contributing to this cultural imbalance could be values that people hold around family, around money, around time. I think, again, for me, to use my own relationship as an example, as an American, there's not an expectation for me to provide financially for my parents, my family. When you're in the US, your parents take care of you till you're 18, maybe provide a little bit more support as you're kind of taking off and going to university, whatever. But you're pretty much independent after that. You're an adult, you pay for your own things, you support yourself. Again, your parents might support you in some ways as you grow and whatever. Our parents always love to parent us. But in Thai culture, I feel like there's a much stronger expectation to provide for the parents and for the older generation. So a lot of Thai people, when they're young adults my age, they'll be working really hard and then they're sending money home. They're sending money to their parents. They're sending money to their aunties and uncles and cousins and, being the one to get a better job to provide money for them. And that is deeply ingrained in the culture. And again, another thing that can kind of trigger disagreements, that can cause tension in a relationship is like, how are we managing our money? Because in my American Western mindset, it's like I make money for myself so that I can do the things that I want, so that I can set myself up for the future that I'm looking for. And if I'm having a partner who thinks I'm making my money so I can send all of it home and I'm not going to spend it on myself and I'm not going to invest in my own career, my own future, I'm just going to invest in or give back to my parents, my family, that can create some tension, that can raise some questions, that can alter some expectations about like, where does your salary go? How do we pay our bills? Who's responsible for what? Am I also responsible for taking care of your mom and your dad and your grandparents? Like, those are conversations you'll have to have if you are in a cross-cultural relationship. Moving on from that, language barrier. Language barrier, I think, is the most obvious challenge that comes with dating cross-culturally, especially if that cross-culture is also crossing languages, because obviously communication is a big thing. Communication has to happen in relationships or they eventually break down. And when you can't communicate 100% what you want to say, there can be a lot of issues. It's really difficult to understand someone fully and to be fully understood when you don't speak the same language or when you are perhaps communicating in both of your second language in order to connect. So there can be challenges there. It requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of understanding. It requires a bit of compassion for the other person and trust that they're trying their best and that maybe you're not going to always understand fully, but that doesn't mean you can't care fully about them as a person. And I think having a language barrier and struggling to communicate exactly what you want is really a great opportunity to be creative about how you communicate and to communicate in ways that are nonverbal. I think when you can't share and exchange words, it is a beautiful opportunity to explore the other love languages, if you will. It is a great way to explore acts of service and to explore quality time and to explore physical touch. Like, those are so many other ways that love can be shown and love can be shared without having to exchange the words. And just being in someone's presence and feeling their energy can be just as powerful as like hearing someone's words. And that's something that I definitely have experienced in relationships, and I really enjoyed experiencing and enjoyed challenging myself to kind of expand and explore, because there were many times that I couldn't express how I felt. And it's okay, because I could show it in other ways. I could show it in the way that I showed up for someone when they needed me. I could show it in a way where I did something that I knew would mean a lot to someone because of what I'd observed about them and what I had noticed, even without having to say any words. Although this can be really challenging, it's a great opportunity to learn and to expand and to improve upon your ability to be a good partner, because you get to just learn so many new ways to show up for someone, to be there for someone, to love someone, even in the absence of words. And I'll tell you, honestly, I have never felt more seen, more loved, more understood than by the boyfriend I had, who was Thai, who there was a huge language barrier. We were together for 2 years, and he knew me so intimately, so well. He could pick up in a second when my energy was off. He could tell if there was something wrong. He just knew it from like being in my presence, and he would comfort me and hold me, and he would be there for me and support me in ways that were completely nonverbal, but I just felt so seen and I felt so understood and I felt so safe. And I think it just goes to show that it's not always in the words that we exchange. It's in our body language. It's in our energy. It's in the way that we observe one another and the way we notice these small shifts and changes. And when you don't always have to rely on words to communicate, I think it's really powerful to be able to pick up on that without. And that says a lot about how well you know someone, how intimately you know someone, because if you can recognize that something is wrong before they even say a single word, like that, to me, is really special. The last challenge I want to address when it comes to cross-cultural dating is dealing with judgment from others. And this isn't something that I really expected to experience, but I did. And I think it's something worth talking about. I think when you are dating someone from another culture, from another place, especially if there's a language barrier, people make assumptions about your relationship. There are some microaggressions. There are some insecurities or projections that are put on you. A lot of people look at a relationship where there's a language barrier or a big age gap or clearly a power imbalance, and they're like, they obviously must not love each other because they can't understand each other. Or why are they together? Like, person A is obviously using person B for their money, or person A is obviously using person B for a visa. And there's just all of these like instant judgments and perceptions that are thrown onto the relationship before they even really get to know you. And I've been guilty of this, to be honest. I think when you come to Thailand, when you come to Southeast Asia, there's always this stereotype of like old white man, really young Asian wife. And while in many cases it is creepy and gross, there are also just as many cases where it's not creepy and gross and it's actually working really well, and there's a lot of love in those relationships and everyone is benefiting from the relationship. Everyone's getting what they need. Everyone's feeling loved and supported. And this really came to me when I was an English teacher in Hua Hin, which is a really big kind of retirement community, a great place for families. I remember I was teaching one day and one of my students was like, "It's my dad's birthday." I'm teaching third graders, okay? They're 8 years old. And I was like, "Oh my God, happy birthday to your dad. How old is he?" And she was like, 74. I was like, 74? That's older than my dad. You know, like, ugh, why is your dad 74? And then my mind instantly judged to like, okay, sex pat, came here, knocked up a bar girl, had a baby. And I hate that I jumped to that place. I hate that that was my initial assumption, because when he came in for parent-teacher conferences with his wife, he was so lovely and so engaged in his daughter's learning and her progress, and so supportive and like so loving with his wife. And like the wife also was just lovely, and they seemed so happy together. And obviously I know that there's always more to a relationship. You can't judge based on one interaction, but like seeing that child and seeing how smart she was and how fun she was and how like she was clearly very loved and supported at home, and that kind of shifted my thinking about relationships in a way, because I thought, you know, the stereotypes are not always true, and while they do exist for a reason and sometimes they are true, there are also many times where it's not. So it just kind of made me want to be a little bit less judgmental about the relationships that I see, because you never know the dynamics of a relationship, and everyone has their ability to choose what relationship they want to be in and what works for them. So I just, after that interaction, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm not going to judge. And I think we should all be a little bit less judgmental about relationships, because you never know the dynamics, and then you have to trust that everyone's making the choice that's best for them. Other microaggressions I've experienced, let's see. One time someone asked me how my parents felt about me dating a Thai man, and I was kind of like, what do you mean by that? Like, how would my parents feel about me dating any men? You know, like what does it matter that they're Thai? Things like that. It's like microaggressive comments like that it's like, what do you mean? Also, just like people, again, projecting their own insecurities. I've heard people say like, oh, I don't find Thai men attractive. I could never date Asian men. I don't like Asian men. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, why are you rejecting an entire like continent of people? Why are you telling yourself this story? You know, I think we have a tendency to feel attracted to what we're most often exposed to. So I guess if you're coming from a place where Asians are not the predominant nationality, maybe you haven't found most Asian men that you've experienced attractive, but you just haven't seen enough Asian men. You haven't seen enough Thai men. Once you see the range, you're going to find someone attractive. So don't limit yourself. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about some of the best parts of cross-cultural dating, because like I said, I think there are so many. I think it's magical. I think everyone should experience a cross-cultural relationship at some point in their life, should they have the opportunity, because there's just really nothing better, in my opinion. Number one, best thing about dating cross-culturally is you are constantly learning new things. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter where you go, you're always learning something new. You might be learning a new word, new slang term, you might be learning a new idiom, you might be learning about a new game or a new holiday or a new location. So many things to learn. It's just like constantly having your mind blown by little things, and that is one, really exciting, and two, a really great way to create connection with someone, because it's just like you keep showing each other things that are exciting and new, and you're keeping your relationship fresh. You're keeping it exciting. I've said exciting too many times. But literally, they're just showing you a whole new world. I think it's so easy to connect and to grow together as a relationship when you never have a shortage of moments and things to discover and experience together. When you are dating someone within your own culture, you already have this massive understanding and kind of shared experience when it comes to how you were raised and what you experienced as a child and where you grew up. Like, that's all kind of common ground, so you don't have to explore that together. You already just kind of share that. And then sometimes that's great to already have those connections, but it's even better when you don't and you get to show each other all these things. It's kind of like showing a child something for the first time and seeing them get excited, like taking a kid to the park for the first time and watching them go down the slide, or, showing a kid their first snow and taking them sledding and just like getting to see the excitement and the joy in their eyes for the first time that they experience something really fun. You get to do that all the time when you are dating someone from a completely different culture. And to give an example of this, I showed this Thai guy. He loved bread. He loved to eat bread. He loved like bakery stuff, pastries, steamed bread, the Thai sweet steamed bread. He loved it. And I was like, oh my God, have you ever had French toast? And he didn't know what French toast was. And I blew this man's mind. I went to Macro. I bought a cinnamon milk bread, vanilla, put a little butter on it, fried that up in the pan, introduced this man to French toast for the first time in his life. He lost his mind. He was blown away. He was obsessed. He was begging me to make him French toast forever after that. And it was just like those little moments, those little things where it's like, if I was dating someone from my own culture, from my own background, they already know what French toast is. And they're just like, yeah, French toast, great. They're not going to freak out. But he freaked out. And I think just that, having the excitement and the joy over those small things, is such a cool way to experience a relationship. Because like I said, there's just never a shortage of opportunities to connect and to create memories together. So to summarize all of this dating talk and advice, I want to give you 5 tips for cross-cultural dating. Number 1, if you would like to date someone from a certain culture, watch rom-coms, watch series that show relationships in that culture. And I know that sounds kind of silly and stereotypical, but I think it is a really great way to gain an understanding of how people approach flirting, how people approach relationships, what the dynamics and the expectations in a relationship are. Because the way that we create stories and we create films and media are very reflective of the values that we hold in our own culture. So if you are watching a Korean TV show or a Japanese TV show or a Thai TV show, you're going to see how relationships are portrayed in each one of those cultures. And again, I know that might seem kind of silly or irrelevant to you, but I think it's really, really a good way to kind of get a grasp for how a culture approaches a relationship and how they feel about things like PDA, how they feel about dating, like what a first date should look like, how they feel about the speed at which a relationship moves or the expectations of a man or woman in a partnership. Watch the rom-coms, enjoy, okay? Cultural experience right in your living room. Second tip I have for cross-cultural dating is have a sense of humor. You have to be able to laugh at yourself and each other. You have to be able to learn from your mistakes and just understand that there are going to be moments that are uncomfortable. There are going to be moments that are funny. There are going to be misunderstandings. I've had so many. I've talked about some before. But just laugh at them. Keep it lighthearted. Be willing to have a sense of humor when it comes to cross-cultural dating. The next one is to always have compassion and give someone the benefit of the doubt. I think when you are dating cross cultures, as we talked about, there can be a lot of misunderstandings, there can be a lot of miscommunications, but you have to be patient and you have to believe that you're both trying your best and that sometimes these miscommunications are not malicious, they're not there to harm you. You can be mindful of them, keep your sensors up. If they're repeating themselves over and over and not getting better, obviously use your judgment. But I think you have to have a little bit more compassion, be willing to compromise, be willing to meet in the middle, and yeah, just trust that you're both doing the best that you can. Fourth tip is to check yourself, check your speed and your progression. I think I've noticed something that I've noticed specifically from dating in Thailand, and I think this happens a lot when you are dating abroad, is you have a tendency to move much more quickly into relationships than you would were you living in your home country. And this can be for many reasons. It can be, just like financially, it makes more sense. Maybe there's a lot less commitment in sharing assets or rent in a foreign country. I know in Thailand, leases are month to month, so it doesn't feel like a big deal if you move in with someone because you could just as easily move out and separate again. Whereas in the US, it would be like signing a lease, big commitment type of thing. And also, I think there's this sense of like getting close with someone quickly because you're so far from home. And then once someone starts to feel like home, once you start to feel really connected and feel really strongly for a person that starts to make you feel secure and safe, there's like this desire to cling to it and you cling to it really fast. So check yourself in those situations, pace yourself accordingly. There's not a right or wrong time to move in with someone. I've moved in with a boyfriend and we were living together for over a year and it all worked out, but just be mindful of the speed at which you're moving through a relationship. Last tip, and I think this is a really important one, is don't expect your partner to be your teacher. If you want to date someone from another culture, from another country, who speaks another language, don't expect or rely on them to be the one to teach you everything about that language, that culture. I think something that shows like a huge amount of commitment and a huge amount of love is your willingness as an individual to go out of your way to learn about the culture, learn about the language independent of your partner, because that just shows a deep desire for you to understand them better, you to understand where they're coming from without putting the expectation on them that they are going to be the ones to teach you, because it shouldn't be their job. You should want to do that on your own. And also, just because someone speaks a language doesn't mean they're good at teaching the language. And just because someone is from a certain culture doesn't mean it's their responsibility to tell you everything about the culture. Those are things that you should take upon yourself to learn, and you can practice with them and you can ask questions when you need to, but you shouldn't put the pressure on them to be the one to teach you. You need to teach yourself. You need to find someone else to teach you, pay someone else to teach you. Like, teaching is a job. Don't expect your partner to do it for free, because that can put weird expectations. That can be frustrating. That can be just annoying, honestly. So there's my advice. Now, if I think I had to summarize everything that I've learned about dating and relationships in my 6-7 years living abroad, this is actually something that Maggie says to me all the time, my best friend. She was on episode 5, if you haven't watched it, is that there are all types of ways to have a relationship. And I think that is really liberating when you think about it. That is really empowering, because we don't have to have a relationship in one certain way. There's not one specific way that you have to have a relationship in order to be successful in partnership. And the longer that I've lived abroad, the more different types of relationships I've seen, and the more I've felt free to explore relationships in whatever capacity I want to explore them. And I know that sounds avoidant, but hear me out. I think we all carry ideas about what a relationship is supposed to look like based on the relationships we were exposed to when we grew up. So for me, growing up, my thought about relationships was you date someone for a while, you decide to get married, you move in together, you have kids, you raise your kids in your house with your family nearby forever. And that's just how relationships work. And the older I've gotten and the more I've lived abroad and the more I've traveled, the more I've seen so many different types of relationships working. And I think it's really cool and really inspiring to see all of the different creative ways that people have defined partnership for themselves. And it's also been very empowering, very kind of liberating to know that you can have whatever type of relationship you want as long as everyone's on the same page and everyone wants the same thing. So just to give some examples of things that I've seen that have worked. Maggie, my best friend, she introduced me to the concept of love bubbles, which is kind of a funny term, but I have really seen it work. And that is when people have these really beautiful relationships when they're together, and then they kind of release each other to the rest of their lives when they're apart. And then when they come back together, when they're in the same place at the same time again, they pick up where they left off. And call it non-committal, call it avoidant, if you will. But I think for some people, especially people who are traveling a lot, people who aren't really ready to settle down or don't have a place to settle down, this kind of setup works really well. They spend a few months out of the year in different places, and whenever they're in this place with this person, they connect, they have a really strong relationship, they have fun together, and then when they leave, everyone's kind of free to do what they want to do, and then they circle back around. They come back. They see each other again. And the connection is still there. It's really fun and loving and giving everyone what they're looking for. But it's not a lifelong commitment because it's just logistically not feasible. I've also seen people make lifelong commitments being in different places. I knew a woman who, she was Balinese, running a lot of programming for study abroad in Bali, and her husband was a Canadian professor, and they would see each other a few months out of the year. They were married, they were in love, they, have children together, and it was working, and they just lived in separate countries. And I met another woman who had the same story. She was French, her daughter was living in Thailand, her husband was in France. She would come to Thailand for a couple months out of the year and live and travel with her daughter, and then she would go back and be with her husband for the other 9 months of the year. And that kind of setup would have never crossed my mind, and I'm still not sure if that's something that I would actually want, but it's cool to see people making those types of relationships work for them and to be so happy and fulfilled and free doing something and existing in a relationship that I never even thought was possible. So it's really cool to open your mind to that. I've seen people move from one country to another and completely immerse in this new culture, this new country, this new life with their partner. I've seen people partner up and move to a completely new place together where they're both in a uncomfortable or unfamiliar culture. I have seen healthy and beautiful relationships where there is a huge age gap. I have seen healthy and beautiful relationships where there's a big lifestyle gap. And it's just, again, the idea that I had about a relationship and what it should look like was only based on the relationships that I saw growing up. And now that I've seen all these different examples of relationships and seen all these different types of relationships, it really kind of empowers me and gives me hope that I can find whatever type of relationship it is that I'm looking for, and I can define exactly what it is that I want. I don't have to fit someone else's example or ideals. So with that, I want to leave you with your fruit for thought for this week, which is, if you could define your ideal relationship, forgetting about the expectations that society has laid out for you, forgetting about the ideals that you have learned growing up, what is your ideal relationship? What are you looking for in a partner? What's the dynamic? What's the location setup? What's the cadence that you're seeing each other? Like, what is your ideal relationship? What would that look like for you? And how would you show up as a partner? And how can you begin to look for that? How can you ask for that in the dating scene that you're currently exposed to? Think about that. Thank you so much for listening to Fruit Friday and for your patience with me cutting this down to every other week. I have bitten off a bit more than I can chew, if I'll be honest with you. Filming and editing and producing one episode a week is turning out to be more than I can handle with all of my other things going on. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, please share it with a friend, share it on your social media. It really helps me support and grow my engagement, so really appreciate that. And don't forget to come back and join me in 2 weeks, because in our next episode, we will be talking about grief and how you deal with grief from abroad. It is a topic that I don't think is discussed enough, but I have a lot to say about it. And I hope that if you are someone who is living abroad or is thinking about moving abroad, it brings you some comfort in knowing that the difficulty that you've dealt with when navigating grief from abroad is not something that you are alone in. It's a very shared experience. It's something that we've all gone through if you've lived abroad for long enough. And there are some ways to get through it to make it just a little bit easier. So I hope to see you back here soon. But until then, happy Friday.
Take one last bite of that juicy slice. Fruit for thought, sounding oh so nice. Human heart of wisdom, served just right. Laughing, learning, loving too. Fruit Friday's here with the juice for you.